Hey, Eust. Good morning for me. Good evening to you over in Denmark.
Hello, Reese, and nice to be here on your YouTube stream.
Yeah, third time I think you've been
Uh,
on.
Second time, actually. I
Yeah.
was here 1 year ago, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back. Thank you for joining
Thank
on
you.
this. Yeah, I think in the last year there's certainly been a lot of big movements through Microsoft with all the Fabric stuff, and even for you as well. You've had a big transition from independent to working for a really great company over in Denmark that few people might have heard of, Capacity, that is largely involved with the kind of the evolution of Tabular Editor.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm a colleague with Danielle
Hmm.
in capacity. So yeah. I've been independent for 12 years. So it's a big move to me to get in and be part of something bigger. But I really looked forward to it. I had a really great start. I started here 1st of August, and the colleagues are really great. And I have got a lot of very interesting assignments. I in my new role, I will primarily work internal in capacity to help all the other consultants do things smarter, better, and more efficient, developing frameworks and tools, but also doing internal learning, webinars and trainings and stuff like that.
I mean, I think a fair description of that would be using the term creating somewhat of a center of excellence for resources and material and a lot of other stuff to be used internally, if I'm hearing
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And then also actually I will be working with the sales and marketing and helping them doing more external events and marketings for both existing customers and new customers.
Very cool. I think Capacity has about 55. No, is it a 50? Is either 50 or 150 employees, one of the two.
Yeah, 150, but
150. Okay.
actually, I think 175 in 1 month. So, and capacity is actually part of a greater company called Today that is 3 or 4 thousand employees in both Denmark and Norway and Sweden.
So I know with Daniel and his team with Tabular, so it's Tabular Editor, which was I know there's, I would say, a sponsorship slash partnership that from Capacity, and then Capacity has two data that's above it. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
the levels of the organization on the way up. Well, either way, congrats on that. It's only
Thank you.
been it's 11 days, so you're not even 2 weeks into the new job. So I'll be interested to see here in the near future how things have been going. But otherwise, yeah, like I said, a big transition for you, certainly going from that long in independent consulting to having coworkers again.
Yeah. So yeah, that's some things I need to learn now, being an internal in a big organization. But I also very much looking forward to get a lot of colleagues. So yeah.
And otherwise, I mean, you've been just for a little background on yourself for the
Hmm?
people less familiar on the channel. You've been involved in the MVP community and the Power BI community for many years now. You have ran the Power BI Next Step for
Hmm?
the upcoming third
Yeah.
in about a month, a little over a
Hmm?
month now. That will be the third year for that. You also have the Power Platform Next Step, which just
Yeah.
happened, I think in June.
Yeah.
That also is sold out, I think,
Hmm?
as well. And you did a Power BI cruise, which I think you hold the honor of having the first Power BI focused conference on a cruise ship that's ever happened, which was back in May or
Yeah.
April.
Yeah. Late April. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
you've certainly stood up multiple conferences at this point. I've had the privilege of being able to present it at the last two Next Steps at least, and it's a lot of fun. So I'll recommend for anyone who's interested in Power BI. And Next Step is a specific focus. If you look at the title, on people who are already familiar with Power BI. If you open Power BI last week and you're just getting familiar with it, those will be mostly advanced topics for you. But for the person who has been working with it for some amount of time and is wanting to upgrade their skills, that's what it. So those are all going to be the 2 to 400 level classes, the ones where you're already familiar with the product and you're wanting to get to that next step in your expertise or kind of next step in your career, which I think is a great concept because a lot of conferences will be sprinkled with tons of like 101 topics, and it's nice to be able to have one that's exclusively just intermediate to advanced.
Yeah, exactly. That's our goal, and it's already sold out now. It was sold out one month ago, and there's still 1.5 month to the event. So it's been a great success, and I'm really looking forward to the next one that's in Copenhagen.
I think you get about 500-600 people attendees in
No,
Denmark.
no, no, no. We are actually doing it very small, so 250.
Or 250. It always feels bigger. Okay, so yeah, it's usually between 200 to 300, I think, each time, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, and it's good that you're able to sell out that quickly for the conference for sure. And Denmark's a fun place to visit. So yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's interested in those, check them out for next year. It sounds like you're doing about 2 to 3 a year now. One for the platform, one for Power BI, and maybe you'll have the cruise again next year if you enjoyed that.
Yeah. I can actually reveal. I saw that that class is on the stream. He was part of the cruise last year, and I can say that next year we will do it in the start of June, and it will be between Sweden and Finland, so between Stockholm and Helsinki and back. So
That's as long as it's not like a week after the MVP summit, that's definitely one that I'll apply to next year. That's the only reason I didn't end up going. It's just that much traveling that close back to back. Just I knew would have burned me out. Like I need some rest time at home. But I have not been to Helsinki yet, so that would actually be a fun excuse. So hopefully, fingers crossed for next year. And we had one person in the chat class who mentioned that the cruise was fantastic. So and he will be coming back the following year apparently. So that you already have one confirmed attendee. I'm ready for that.
that sounds nice. Yeah.
Outside though of the I think your job transition and some of the conferences that you host, I think to kind of finish off the introduction section, is there anything else you'd like to share either about yourself or kind of to a degree what you do in your capacity, no pun intended, in your role in the community?
Yeah, and actually one of the other things I do is what we will talk about today is maintaining an open source project around monitoring Power BI and Fabric, and that's a project I've been working on for the last 2 years, and really looking forward to present it today. It's actually the first time I'm presenting the solution on a street, on video or on a conference as a session. It's been just blog posts earlier, so a really great opportunity for me to both present it online here as a stream, but also get it recorded so I can link to it from the solution, so people can maybe easier get started with the solution.
Well, and I think you mentioned there's about like 8 to 12 posts if I'm remembering correctly. So it's kind of scattered throughout a lot of topics. So you're collecting this together cohesively into one kind of longer, organized discussion demonstration on this topic, versus the micro blog post. So it'll be nice to see everything kind of collected together in a single spot.
That's the goal, at least to get this walkthrough of how to set up the solution and how to use the solution.
Excellent. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to diving into the topic. If you're ready, I can flip over to the screen and we can get started. Excellent.
Thank you very much. So here we see the GitHub repository where I have the code for this Power BI monitor, and as we said, there's not that much information in here, as most of the information is in a series of blog posts. And as you can see down here, it all started back in 2021 in February with the first blog post, and then I have been continuing extending the solution and making the solution better over time. So what is the solution actually? That would be a nice way to start to tell people. So this is a solution to extract and query all the wonderful data you can get out. So it's admin data around Power BI and now also Fabric. If we look back 2 months ago, 3 months ago, it was only monitoring Power BI. But now, as Power BI is part of Fabric, and Microsoft have chosen to extend these information with also Fabric information, then you will get both with using this solution. And with this solution, you will get the activity and audit events, and that is all what's going on in your environment or in your tenant. So it's cross workspaces. that all that the users is doing, both if they're deleting a report, if they're viewing a report, if they're creating a lake house, all these kind of things. And it's called both activities and audit, because you can also use it audit-wise if there's something you need to investigate in what have happened in the past. So that's the main part. That's actually where I started. That was the focus from there. So to extract these data so that we can consume them and report and analyze them, and then I extended the solution with also all the artifact metadata. I will call it. It's a capture of all the different things you have in your tenant. So a one-off list of all the workspaces with all the content in the workspaces, and also some very granular things like so who has access to what. So which users have access to a specific report or workspace, and which role they have in a workspace. And this is also covering, started off with only Power BI, but now it also have Fabric. If you have enabled Fabric in your tenant, then you will also see if you have created now some of the new artifacts like Lakehouse, Warehouse, and stuff like that. So you can, and then you can combine these data. Of course, if you are following and doing the activity log, you will also get what is created. But this artifact metadata is like a catalog of all that is, and then quite recently, actually only 2 months ago, it was announced as part of Fabric. Then we also got the opportunity to extract all the admin tenant settings. That has been closed. You can go in the admin tenant settings and see them, but now you can also extract them. And this is also very valuable if you go out, for instance, to make to see the settings from a new client. Instead of going in, scrolling down, seeing all the settings, now you can extract them. And then you can compare over time if something is changed and what is changed to, and if you are breaking some of the best practice around tenant settings. Have someone going in and change the settings so that you can now publicly share to the internet or other stuff that you will probably not have to have set up. So that's a really a new thing that we can extract these data. So this three parts with activity, audit events, the artifact metadata, and admin tenancy is all coming from Power BI and Fabric, and you can extract those through some API calls. Then,
and in general, I think the idea is really just to continue to expose in the API as the artifacts are added or evolve. Fabric / Power BI artifacts. This will somewhat stay in tandem. Step with it to make sure that those are usually exposed as they come out. Similar with like data pipelines, but whatever from a management perspective, they want to make sure you have the management tools to be able to manage all those new stuff as we keep getting shotgunned more and more features into Fabric.
Yeah, and actually with Fabric coming up now, then this is pretty important to monitor to see what is people doing with Fabric, or are they using Fabric? Because what you also can use these audit and activity data is to also, I've created this report and I expected this and this and this user from this department to view this report, but they're not viewing it. So you can also use it the other way around and see that if there's something we expect to be consumed by the end user and it's actually not, and what reports is not being used at all. Is there something we can delete or clean up? So there's a lot of different aspects of getting these data.
Exactly.
And then the last one is the Microsoft Graph data. That is another API. That's not the Power BI admin API. That's part of what Microsoft call Microsoft Graph, but it's actually Microsoft 365. I believe more people will know it about, where you have the list of users, the list of security groups, and also the licenses. So that's another API you can call and get, and then you can also actually from the Microsoft Graph. This is just what I have been focusing on, these three topics: users, groups, and licenses. But you can also get all the team's activities or how much people are using Outlook and stuff like that. But that's sort of not the focus for this. So I limit it to users, groups, and licenses. And this you can combine, because in many of the other data you get out, you will only get a user ID. But if you will get on the users, extract those, you will get what department are they in, and all other kinds of settings. So you can combine it with the activity data or with the artifact metadata, for instance. And then also the licenses. Here you can grab all people's licenses, but of course in this context it's mostly around Power BI license that is interesting, because then you can see, have we actually giving some pro licenses to some users and they're not using it? So that we could, when we combine these data, and that could be something that you can actually save some money on, and that if you want to do this little exercise of combining licenses and the activity data, this is the only way you can do it, is to extract these data from the APIs. Microsoft is not giving us any solutions on that. So from my perspective, it's pretty important if you are the admin, or if you manage Power BI and or Fabric in some way, that you will extract these data. And that is why I created this open source solution, is to make it more easy for people to get these data out. And then I should also say that the focus from this, and my focus, or at least for now, has been to extract it and store it, and then make some basic querying on top of it, but not. If you see the architecture here, it's the ingest part that I've been, and the store part, and then a little around the transform part, but not anything about the serve part. That's not part of the solution. So you will need to create your own. And in this case, it will be obviously to use the Power BI to make the reporting on top of this. I have a goal. Hopefully, I will come there someday to also make this part of the solution. But it's kind of it's not easy, I will say, to make a one report that can do all. So you will probably make multiple small reports or data models for different purposes. So that's part of why I haven't done that. I have done it with some clients, but then I've been focusing on what do they want to use these data for, and then create some basic reporting. And in many cases, actually, it's my client that's making the data sets and report themselves, and then I set up this solution to ingest and store the data.
And I would say within the community as well, I know there's some good resources for like get started with the APIs. I know Rui has built some versions of that. Tommy over in association with Power BI Tips built a version of Rui's reports on top of that, also for kind of collecting data. So there's a few individuals, including yourself, who kind of help people get started with building data sets that access the API. Mostly, as you mentioned, because Microsoft's really good at like, it's technically available. We're not going to build the UI for it, for this advanced stuff, but you can go get it if you put some effort into it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And my focus for this solution have been around using Azure Data Factory or integration pipelines in Azure Synapse Analytics. It's kind of the same product, but just in two different Azure resources. When Fabric will mature more, then we will also be able to run these integration pipeline as part of Fabric. And at that point, I will, of course, also support, so you can run the whole solution inside your tenant and don't need to spin up additional resources. You can just use a Fabric pipeline to do this. But I haven't come to that part yet, and also, Fabric is not that mature yet, so there's missing some features around the authentication to the APIs, and before they make that, then I won't put it in. But it should be pretty easy for me to to convert it, so you can also, and as Reed said, there's also other. This is not the only solution, but I believe this is the only solution that is using Azure Data Factory, and Azure Data Factory is in fact of the primary ingest tool for Microsoft. So if you ask Microsoft what should you use to batch ingest data from different data sources into a lake or into a SQL Server or wherever you want to store your data, then Microsoft say, yeah, you should use Data Factory. And there's other solutions if you are not if you don't want to use Data Factory for the one or the other reasons, then Rui Romano have made a solution. I've been inspired by of course Rui's solution, but he had made a solution that is running in PowerShell. And as you said, Puglia had made a solution I believe runs in Power Automate, maybe.
Yes, I know he took the concept that Rui had done, and I think he added a few new things, but also changed the ingestion part of it, I believe, a little bit.
Yeah,
because I see why you mentioned some other stuff. I'll see if I can find a couple links to that, just because we've talked about them a few times.
Yeah, but actually I can go down here because in my end here I just added some. So this is not a list that covers all the alternative solutions, but here you have the PBI monitor by Rui, a link to his GitHub, and then also we have to say Microsoft is actually also giving us a very basic solution to do sort of the same. It's a quite new feature coming out also as part of the Fabric announcement. So in late May, they announced they will have this admin monitoring for tenant admins, but it's very, very basic. You will not get much information out of it right now. We can all hope that Microsoft will extend this solution, because then you don't need to do all the things I will tell you and walk you through here to set up and query it, because then you can just go directly into Fabric or Power BI Tenant and find this admin monitoring workspace and then get the information directly into it. And that will be really amazing if Microsoft fulfills the dream, so it will be easy for everyone to get the data. But I expect there will still be some missing stuff. So if you want to have a solution that you can control yourself and extend yourself and be in control of, then I advise you to either use my solution with the Data Factory, or use Rui's solution, or any of the other solutions out there using Power Automate if you're more familiar with that, or Power Query. You can also extract some of these data with Power Query. I think that's made, I can't remember who, but
Miguel Escobar made a custom connector at a couple years ago. I don't know if it's been up. I haven't used it since Fabric's come out, so I don't know if it automatically just recognizes those new entities, because I think it's just fetching the list of all things that you can pull out. But yeah, he made a custom connector that you could use that requires like a data gateway and a few other things to refresh the service. But yeah, there are quite a few solutions out there. And just one quick nod as well for all of these things. These are great if you want to spend the time and save some money and build it yourself. The one good solution that I'll just recommend, if you want to plug and play, click a button, you have that. Power BI Sentinel is a really good tool as well. It has monitoring. There's also like 30 other features it comes with, but one of the many features that it includes is just it has a UI where it's grabbing this data, but it built the interface for you for I think it's a few $100 a month or something like that, but it's small change. But that's usually the thing that I point to people who are we'd rather throw cash than time at something. That's it. But this solution that you'll have in front of us is we have time and we want to build this for ourselves. And at that point, it's bespoke. So you can look at exactly what you want to monitor and ignore the rest.
Yeah, exactly. And I also have Power BI Sentinel on this list. And it's a great service that you will pay a monthly fee to use, and then you can get all the information, but also a lot of other things. Power BI Sentinel is a great tool, but also Argus PBI, a tool created by Greg. I see Greg is actually part of the chat here, so congratulations. So I think it's quite new solution coming out, and it's also a paid service to monitor your whole Power BI tenant. But I believe it's way cheaper than Power BI Sentinel. So, but go ahead and look at both of these solutions, and then you can choose what is the best one for you if you don't want to do it yourself, like you will have to do if you use the solution by Rui or the solution that I will present to you now. So yeah.
Great.
So
yeah, I'm gonna get great. Go ahead.
Yeah. With this covered, yeah, we will and what I will say around this architecture is that we can in this specific architecture, I'm using Data Factory as part of Synapse, because then I also get the SQL Serverless endpoint where I can do some basic transformation on the data. But you can use also just the standalone Data Factory, but then you will only get the ingest part. It's more or less the same process. But in this webcast, I will show it as part of Synapse, because then I can also show the SQL Serverless endpoint. So yeah, so what I have done is I've created a Synapse, a resource group in Azure. So that's the first, and that can be a hard part. You need some access to a subscription and maybe a resource group to be able to create some resources. And in this specific one, I have created a Synapse workspace, and then also a data lake or a storage account with a data lake into it, so I can store the data. So this is the first part in here. So going in my Synapse workspace and then opening it up, it's completely empty. I created 1 hour ago. There's nothing in this. So the first thing we need to do is create what is called a link service. And that is something I'll create here under Manage, and then link services. There's already 2 link services available. One of them is for the data lake. That's the second one on this one. So we already have the connection in place that can actually store the data, but we need to put in the link services to extract the data. So that is the first thing we'll need to do. And before we get to that, we need to set up some things in our Power BI tenant to be able, so that this specific workspace have access to get the data from the admin APIs that is available. So first thing we need to go into, and probably it's not certain that you have the access. I am a Power BI admin, or it's called a Fabric admin now. So I'll go into the admin portal here. And here we have all the different tenant settings that we can set up. So probably you have to find a person in your company that have the ability to go in and change these tenant settings, or you can send them an email and ask to have some specific settings changed for you. So I will go down and find the one that is important. Let me see. The first one is around audit, and that's not the one, but this one. So this is a default is on. So, but you need to be sure that it is on. But this is that they will actually, the Power BI will actually capture all the audit logs. So default, I haven't seen a tenant yet that have put this to disable, but you of course need to have it. Be sure that it is on, because then, yeah, if it's not storing any of the audit data, then why try to extract them?
And just a quick mention for a lot of this stuff too is often a good practice for if you have a large organization, for anything that's exposing potentially sensitive data, using security groups is considered a good practice to make sure that don't expose content to the entire org versus just the key groups that will want to extract it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Then under the admin API settings, then we have a settings here. The first one here, allow service principal to use the read-only admin APIs, and that is the admin APIs we want to go in and query with Data Factory. So this one we need also to request and as Reed said, don't allow it for the whole organization, but allow it for some specific security groups. And as you can see here, I have 2 security groups. You can actually not put individual people in here. You need to have a security group. So either you already have a security group, but the best practice is create a new one for this specific one. As you can see, I have 2 here, but probably the last one on this list will be a good way to set this up, so that you have a security group that is called API read only, and the people and the identities in the specific user group, the security group, can then use this APIs, and that is all the admin APIs. We can only read from them, so we can't delete anything, but we can read the activities settings, but also the list of all the artifacts and also the tenant settings with this enabled. Have a security group, and I have this security group Power BI API read only. So for the security to work, then I have to, and as you can see here, this specific workspace is called this, and this specific workspace then have an identity, also called a managed service identity, that we can then place in the security group. And with that in place, then this workspace can then access and extract the data from the admin APIs. So that I will actually go in and show you, because in here I'll go into Azure Active Directory. Then I will go down to groups. I don't have that many groups, but I have this group down here, the one Security Power BI API read only. And in this group, I will then add the workspace. Let's see here on the members. And as you can see, I've created other demos other times. So there's also other what is called service principal as part of this one. I will go here and then find the one I just created here called Havens demo, selected. And then I need to be a little patient or press refresh a lot of times, because at some point it will show up in this list, and then this workspace will have it. And it's the same process if you are using a Data Factory standalone, not as part of Synapse. Let's see if now it's there. So now this workspace have access to the admin APIs through this setting in the tenant settings. Then there are 2 additional settings that I will show you now that we are here. That is the next 2 on the list. And these settings, if we change them, then we can get some additional data out of the API, some more granular data. With the first one, we will get the APIs, and then as you can see here, if that is enabled, and I have just enabled it for the entire organization, because if you're not part of the first one, then you won't get this information either. But you could of course also say specific user security groups and then the other way around. But here you will see what you will get if you enable this. You will get the names of data sets and columns. So from all the different data sets, you can then get what tables and columns are in it. And that is very valuable if you wanted to see and make some analysis of, do we have the same tables or table names or column names in multiple different data sets to see if maybe it's sort of the same data. We won't get what's in there, but just the name of the tables and columns. So we can enable this one. And then there's the second one on this is kind of familiar to this one, but from this one we will then get all DAX and mashup expressions, and DAX that will be all the calculated measures we'll get out of that, and also the DAX expressions, so we can see the specifics, so we can actually make a catalog of all the measures as part of all our different data sets in the whole tenant, and then we can go in and evaluate if the DAX is great or not. But we can also just see if the same measures is part of different data sets, also to see if some of them is the same. And then mashup expression is the Power Query expressions. If
I
there's
always thought the titling here is a little inconsistent, because DAX is technically data analysis expression, but DAX is the initials. M is the initials of the mashup language. So you have the initials for one language, but they spell it out for the other. You know, so it's inconsistent how they wrote that sentence. But I would have hoped maybe they would have put the M in parentheses next to it, because a lot of people don't realize that M stands for mashup, but it's the Power Query M language. Yeah,
exactly, or at least have written Power Query.
Something. Yeah. Mashup's very generic.
Yeah. So but that's what we will get. We still need to say that we will have it as part of the API call, so we can have it enabled and then don't extract it, because if you have a large tenant and then get all these detailed media, you will of course have some larger API calls. But yeah, so admin API settings, you need to find an administrator that can set this up for you, and also maybe not the same administrator, but another administrator have to create, or we use a security group, and then put this workspace as part of the security group to set this up. So with this in place, you will have access to all the Power BI API data. Then we will just, for a minute, there's some more stuff you have to set up if you want to get all the graph data. So that was the users, groups, and licenses, but we will come back to that. So for now, this is what you have to put in place. So with this in place, we can go in here and then make a new link service. If you are old-fashioned and have used the integration services back in the days as part of SQL Server, then it was called a data source, but it's the same concept. So it's a link to a service where we can set some credentials up in and what the endpoint is. So what we will need to get is the one called REST. It's not the best name either, but you just have to know if you want to call an API, it's the link service of the name REST. And in here you have to fill in some different settings, I'm not good at remembering this specifics, but what I can do is going in here, call this LS, that's just my naming standard for all my link services, and then REST, because it's a REST link service, and then Power BI.
And one quick suggestion is you don't need to use zoom it, but if you do the control mouse wheel, just increase the percentage of the, there you go, perfect, excellent.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, we have some space to see, but that's the name. You can't change the name afterwards. That's also something you have to bear in mind. So choose it wisely at first, and then you will need to set up the base URL. So what is the URL of this API we want to call? I will go back to my blog now. I can even also increase this, and then go to my first blog post, because that is where I have written about setting this up. So here you will also find the information around the API admin settings that I told you about setting up. So you will find that information, but you also find here the base URL. So that is the base URL. I'll just copy that to this one. And then authentication wise, we have some different ways to authenticate to use this API. But as I have in this solution, the thing that we gave permission, the one called syn dash Havens Consulting demo that I put into the security group. That is what Microsoft call a system assigned managed identity. Yeah, that's a fancy name. So I can say system assigned managed identity, and then I can go in, and then the AAD resource is also part of here. Yeah. So we don't need to put in any secrets or passwords or anything else, and that's actually what I really like about this solution, that we don't need to have any secrets and something that maybe change, because we are actually giving the whole Synapse workspace access to it, so we don't need to have these. And then fingers crossed, let's test the connection, and hooray, it was successful. I have seen that it can take up to 10-15 minutes before it actually goes through in here. So just be in mind, I have created the security group at first. I also set up the tenant setting at first. So if you are changing the tenant setting and then setting up this immediately after, maybe it won't be successful, but then try again 10 or 15 minutes later.
Greg made a good call in the chat as well, that for some of these settings and things related to the enhancements and others, there are things that are capturing forward, not backwards. So you're not going to be able to like flip a switch and instantly monitor, versus you'll need to collect a little bit of metadata that comes out, then start to actually look at all of this.
Oh, that's a great comment. Thank you, Greg. Now with this in place, I say great, and now we have created the link, so to say, to get this data. Then I will go over in pipelines, and in Data Factory we have a concept around templates, and this is where my solution actually comes in place, because I have created some templates that you can then import into here. So up here we can say import from pipeline template. So going back to my solution, and then going back here, then up here you see Data Factory templates. And it's called Data Factory template, but it's also working in Synapse. It's just the same service. And in here, I've created some different templates. It's in zip files. That's the way Microsoft has chosen to put these templates. It's actually pretty easy to make a template. You create a pipeline, then you can export it as templates. So it's not something fancy I have been doing, but I've been setting this up. And the first one I wanted to show you is getting the activity events. So that is this one here. As you can see, and I can also cover that now, as some of them is here twice, and that's because if you want, I started out and also made some of these templates that can actually store the data directly in a SQL database instead of storing them in an ADLS, stands for Azure Data Lake Storage. So it's a data lake. I will recommend I still keep them there for Azure SQL, but I will recommend that you use the data lake storage, so the lakehouse paradigm that Microsoft also is going very much into with Fabric, because it's very good for unstructured data. And what we will extract from these APIs is not unstructured, it's semi-structured, it's JSON data. But what it is that Microsoft don't tell us when they are changing this format of these JSONs. So when they extend them with new properties or anything like that, and if you put it in a SQL database, yeah, you will only get it as it is when you started collecting it. So you won't get any new properties or any new fields that Microsoft add in, because SQL Server is a structured source, so it won't change for the semi-structured. So I will recommend the ADLS, and that's also what I will say. But here you can see Power BI activity events, and I can just go and grab that and download the raw file here. So it will be downloaded, and let me open the location for this one. Yeah, so having that downloaded, I can only do this once. I have to do the templates once at a time, but then you can also, of course, choose what of them you want to have. So I can go here once again, import from pipeline template, and I have it here. Just download it to my download folder. And open it. And now you have to point to the link services. So you have to point to the link services for the REST API, so for the source and also for the destination. And in this case, the first one is the source, as you can see, REST dataset. So this is the API source. So this is the one called LS REST Power BI. And the second one here is then the one that is pointing to this default data link. And with this in place, so the source and destination, I can say open pipeline. And the pipeline here is actually very, very simple. It's a for each loop, and that is because when you start extracting these data, you can extract maximum 30 days. So that's also, if I go out to a new client, one of the first things we set up is this extract pipeline to get these data, because we can maximum go 30 days back in time, and you can't get all the history. So the sooner you get this started, the better. So the first time you will run this pipeline, you will set it to run for 30 days, and after that you will just extract it one day at a time. So running this pipeline, you can schedule it, put it to a trigger, and have it run once a day to get the last day of data. And down here, when you have a pipeline like this, you can set some parameters. And as you can see here, the default parameter stays to extract, that is 1, but can be set up to a maximum of 30. You can set it higher, but you will maximum get 30 days of data. And then I have set up, okay, where on my storage account will I like to store this data? I put it in a container called raw, and then a folder into this container called Power BI 10. But you can, of course, change it to another place if you like to store it another place. So this one will be stored in raw, and I haven't this storage account created yet. So I'll actually go out here, find my storage account. Let me see, I can just go here. Here I have the storage account. Go to the storage account, then say containers. And right now there's only one, that's the default one, that's called Synapse. And then I will call one called raw. And this is the container. The concept of these containers is that now it's raw, so it's more obvious to people that the data in this container is coming directly from a source, is raw data. You can also, I also see people call it landing, for instance. So that's where the data come in. And if you want to create a lakehouse approach, then you will evolve these data into other containers. But this is our destination container. So this is created here. And I'll go back. So into raw, but yeah, you can call it wherever you want. You just need to have created it at first. And then
I have a quick question as part of this ingestion process. So Anthony was wanting to know if you do you have a pipeline template to import any historic JSON files that were generated using another solution, as an example, like Rui's or maybe Tommy's?
Actually, the JSON files that I extract here is the same JSON, exact same JSON files that Rui and Tom are also or other solutions is extracting. So if you have these historic data already from another solution, you can upload them directly into here. Just make sure to upload them in the same place. You can go upload here and then grab and place all the JSON files in here. So that you can have them stored the same way or the same place.
Excellent. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So with this in place, I have the source and destination in place. Let's have a look at the pipeline itself. So inside inside this, for each day, we have a copy activity, it's called, in Data Factory. And this copy activity is then having a source, and the source is then pointing to this REST or link services, and then it has this call for the specific API, and the API is called activity events. And then there are something that I don't, you don't need to understand here, but just to have the context here, it says, okay, for which time frame do I want this data? And what this is it's getting this parameter that's coming in saying yesterday, then item in here will be 1, and then it's formatted in the right format that the API expect to get this start date time and also end date time. But the start date time will be, the start of the day, and then the end of the day, as you can see here in this with a date before. So starting at this time and ending at this time. That's just something that this API expected to be like this. So yeah. And then the sync is where we will store the data, and we will store it into this parameters, the file system, the folder, the file system, that's the container, and then it's not putting it into the specific folder. It's actually putting it into some subfolders also. So a subfolder called activity events, and then there will be a folder called year, month, and so on. But let's try and run this and then see how it's working in here. So, but just to get a little context in this. So I can debug this one, and when I debug it, then I can set it for 30 days, because now I want to have the last 30 days of activity events extracted. And it should then start, and as you can see, they're starting a lot of different copy activities, because it's a for each loop, so it should come up to 30 if and as I'm doing this in debug mode, it will call it sequentially, but if you are triggering this one, it will call it parallel. As you actually see, it's actually sort of doing parallel still, and it's pretty quick. And that's also it's failing. Some of it is doing great, and some of it is failing. Okay, I won't go into detail for this one and figuring out what it is, but thankfully a lot of it didn't fail, and it's quite quick. Also, if you have a large tenant, and especially if you're only grabbing the events from the last day. But I can go now into this raw folder and then say refresh. I got a new folder called Power BI tenant, one called activity events. Then I use this Hive format when I'm creating these folders with year equals what is in here. That is something Spark is very Sparky way of naming your folders. And then I said, okay, 30 days, so both something in August and July. And if I go in here, I will get one JSON file for each day that I extracted. And these JSON files is then all the activities that occurred on this specific day. I believe actually I can go in here and edit it. Not that it will be very easy to see for you, but here I haven't done much on my tenant on this specific day. Only three events on a typically tenant with a lot of users. You will of course get thousands of activity events, but still it's very quick to extract down. And here you have a schema. And with some things, you can see there's an operation. So I refreshed 2 data sets, I modified something, and it was done on a specific time. And you also have who did it, and a lot of other information. If I go back to my blog, I believe if I take first blog post here, Microsoft actually have a list of these events. That is the one. I'll just open a new tab. So this is the official documentation of how to call this API, but also what is returned and how you can call it. As you can see here with the end date and start date time. You can also do a filtering if you're only interested in specific events. I just capture all of them. And down here you have, and this is where it's kind of, Microsoft have not updated this one in the last 2 years, I have to say. And today we have way more different operations that will come out of this one. So we will get, I think, 60 or 70 ones. So, and we'll get, and Microsoft adds new one all the time. New types of things that you can expect, and you don't have any way of finding out other than trying to query the data and look at it. And I have done some work trying to figure out the data as part of 3 different customer tenants, and then combining what I have found in different ones. But yeah, that's unfortunately how it is. So yeah. And that was importing the template that will get the activity events. Then the same process, going in, finding the other ones, and the next one I will like to show to you is then the one getting the workspace info, so the catalog, and I create a special one here for Synapse, and that's a more advanced pipeline, because it's called asynchronous. So you need to request that now I wanted to have the whole catalog, then wait some time, then it will be ready, and then you can get the data. That's how Microsoft ensures that they can give us all this data, also on very large tenants with thousands of workspaces.
Yeah, there's some of those Fortune 500 companies definitely have that.
Yeah. So I can go and import that template here, open that one, and as you can see here, it's you actually get a way to see it. It's a little more, I won't say it's complicated, but a little more, but let's say, okay, first again, the REST API here, then I have where I need to store it, and then there's a third link service in here, and this link service is one I have created because when we need to request these data, we can at max request for, I believe it's 100 workspace at a time, and you need to put that request in a very specific format to get that, and I haven't yet found an easy way to do it only in Data Factory. So what I have done is I will save the list of workspaces, and from this list of workspaces I will get these batches, and that I have found that my way of doing it is create a SQL statement. So I can use the serverless endpoint to query this JSON file and then transform it into the format that I can then pass into for each batch. And for that, I need to then select the third link service that is then pointing to the serverless endpoint. So with this in place, I say, save the list of workspaces down, and then to get them, and then for each, and that is because I can only request for 100 at a time. So that's why we also need it for each here. Of course, if you have a lesser than that, then we only call it once. If you have more workspace, it will call it as many times as it needs. And there's one more thing you have to put in the parameter here. That is the storage account name here. Unfortunately, you could use another storage account here, but that's how I figured out. And the storage account, I will go in here, and then the storage account, if I just go out of this one, is the one called Havens Consulting Demo. I can copy this one here. Here, it's all in the blog post how you will set this up. So with this in place, I can also debug this one, and thankfully, hopefully, it will work out and get this whole catalog of stuff in here. And let's see, and it's procured. Now it's saving the list of workspaces, and it was successfully. Then I can go in here, and then under Power BI, I got a new folder in here, and that is just a list of workspaces that is available in my tenant, so I can use it in the next API call. So for that, I will go in here and see. Oh, it's failed.
Just responded to one of the messages there, the YouTube chat as well. Anthony just pointed out a good thing in terms of the monitoring workspaces. Personal workspaces can eat up quite a bit of those counts, but in a way, it also is good to monitor those. If you have a particular employee who has 200 data models that have been published to their personal workspace, which does eat into your capacity.
Absolutely, yeah, you will get all the workspaces. So that's a great point. I'll just debug it once more. Okay, it is failing. I won't do much work into why it's failing, but there's some connectivity issue, something that I probably didn't put up correctly. But then I already have this pipeline running in another environment, so I just go over there to show you that I'm not cheating here. I have this one around workspace info. Here's the same one, and let's just execute it here, where it hopefully, thankfully, is working, just so you can see that the data is coming through. And then I will go in and find that storage account. Yeah, I actually have the storage account called used. this name is globally. So container, and then I have 4, and just to show you, I have extracted these data. As you can see, if you put in and go through my blog posts, there's a lot more different things you can get out. This one is the workspace info, and as you can see here, same process, one for each day, and here I have one JSON file with the whole catalog at a specific time, and this JSON is also a beast to look at. Oh, it's actually more than this is supporting to see here, but just
that's a low threshold. Surprisingly, it only supports up to like 2.5 megabytes.
Yeah, just in this viewer.
Yeah, I guess makes sense.
But yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, here you can see a MX version that is part of this one. So yeah, you will get that, and you will get a lot of other stuff when you use this specific template. And I won't import all the different template, but here you can see the list of different things you can get out, and what I covered was the activity events. That is pretty easy to set up, and then this workspace info. Oh, sorry, that's the catalog of things, and then yeah, you can. Okay, I will just and zoom here. The tenant settings, also a template. Then we have something called refreshables. That's a funny name. That's a way of getting all the refreshes that is occurred, all the data set and their refreshes. And it's not all the refreshes, but you will get one extract with the refresh history and the how long I think it will go 30 days back and say the average time this specific refresh took to run and the status of the last refresh, so it was successful or not. So with one API call, then you have, if you have different premium capacities, you can have an API to get those out, and those two and is an API. It's actually two different APIs, but they are sort of the same output. They will get the list of all report that is published to web. And also the other one is where people have used the feature to share a report or data set or anything else they can share with the whole organizations without specifying a specific user or user group. That is kind of a best practice, not to share things with the whole organization. Unfortunately, it's the default option when you share things. If you have the option in the tenant setting that people can share to the whole organization, then that is the default. I will really be glad that we can have the option to share to the whole organization, but not as the default one. But here, then you can see if people have done that, or all the reports or data sets or artifacts that has been using this feature, and also the published web feature. So yeah, and there's different blog posts covering the different templates that I created and what you should be aware of to set this up and yeah. Actually, I miss write a blog post. I can see here on the templates on. Actually, I just added these two that is getting these widely shared artifacts that is both the one shared for the whole organization and the ones shared with embedded links, and then this refreshable. So these ones are here for you to use. They are not complicated to set up. If you try to set up the other ones, it's kind of straightforward to set these up.
Greg got a good note, as usual, on the refreshables, that they refreshables will give the most current single refresh for data sets that are in a premium or PPU. The stats section will be for the history.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is only for the data set that is part of a premium workspace. You will get there. And as Greg now says, you have to, if you want it for non premium capacity workspaces, then you need to call it for each data set. And I could definitely make a pipeline that could do that, but that could be kind of expensive if you have a lot of different a lot of data sets. Actually, a lot of the APIs we have in here, the reason why we have an API to get all the artifact metadata is because Microsoft made it for be used as part of Purview. That was why they made that, and then we can also use it. And I can go in the Power BI admin setting and then show you here. Here you have this reforce summary if you have some premium capacity and have access to see it. And that is actually the API for refreshables. That is this output. You will just get in a JSON structure that you can then save and use and report on instead of going in and seeing it here. Also, this one, embed codes, that is also the one I just talked about. But the one around sharing to the whole organization, that is not part of this one. That is only an API. So Microsoft made an API, but it's not using the data inside Power BI themselves. So this was getting the data. Then I will show you just briefly that you can also query the data if you have Synapse serverless endpoint. And in here, I have created some views that can then look at the JSON structure and then put it in a relational output with some SQL. And I will go in here and then go over here for data. Let me see. I can go over here and then make a SQL script and then get the same way. So here I have this serverless SQL serverless feature where we can query both structures and unstructured data that is in our data lake. And in here I have created a script just to create a database and then a schema that I will use to create some more views in there. So going in here, just copy paste that one, run it. Then it always takes a little time. The first time, okay, 2 seconds, so not the most. So now I created a database called Power BI Monitor, and inside of that I created a schema called raw. Just like if you're familiar with SQL Server on-premise or Azure SQL database. And then let's go in here. And then in the raw, I can say, okay, here I have created some templates, so to say, to how to query the data. Just the raw and base data, not putting into dimension and facts, just the raw data. So in here, let's just copy this one over here. Up here, you will need to go in and put the starts account name. So the starts account name was the one that I had here. Sorry, Havens Consulting demo here. Put that in, so that is where I will find it. And as you can see, as part of the URL here, this is the folder. And then in this specific scenario, I will go in and look for all years, all month, and all files in this month folder. And down here, there are some, this is, I won't call it magic, but this is where you take the JSON structure and then pass it out in a relational structure. And you need, and I will guarantee that I don't have all the different fields that you can get out here, because Microsoft is adding something, and I'm pretty sure they've added a lot more out after Fabric. But this is what I have found. I believe there's 60 or something like that. That's something that is specific to data flows. There's something that's specific to data set. There's something that is specific to if people do export events. So export a report as a PDF or something like that, then you can see more detailed information on that. If people are generating screenshots, if people are importing data, so there's a lot of things in here. If people are using role level security in here, and a lot of it is actually just looking at the specific field in here. You can see with refresh type. For that one, I also put some data types into those. What I believe is okay. As you can see down here, with sharing information, under sharing information, you actually have more JSON. So it's a nested JSON structure. So that is just showing that sharing information. So that there you will actually get, as part of that, who was this shared to, and a lot of those information as part of this specific event. And as you can see up here in OC app permission data, if you set up, I believe it's around setting up an organization app, some permissions on that. I have here said, okay, go down in this JSON structure. And for this one, I know there's a field in there called permission. So it goes down a level more. In this one where it's a 0, that is because, okay, I take the first one that is part of this one, so I can still have one line That's my goal. Only have one line for each activity and not blow it out, so have multiple lines for one activity. So probably if you're searching for very specific information only around sharing information, then you will adjust this and then make a script that only take the sharing information and then go down one level and see that JSON on that one. But this is just my try to get all the information out in an easy way. So this will use this database I created and then create a view in here, and I can just do that one. Oh, maybe so is it because it should not be there? Maybe I believe so. Yeah. And then I created a view. Then I can go over here in databases, and there should be a list here with the database. Let me see, go out here and then go back. It won't show. I already have the SQL database. Okay, but here you will actually get a list of the databases, and then you can see the view here and say click on it and then see it. But what I also can do is just run the select statement here, just so you can see the output. And then on the base on this output, then you can make some reporting. Probably you will do it in Power BI. And as you can see, a lot of the fields is empty, is null value, because with this activity, specific activity, they're using these fields. With this specific activity, they're using these fields. So you can see capacity name. Okay, if this is a view report on a workspace that's not part of capacity, then it will be empty. So you have a lot of really great information here around all the activities is done, and on base of that you can create a simple report showing what reports have been used by which reports or users, and then make a bar chart or line chart to show that we have more users over time.
I had a great just a follow-up question from Anthony. He wanted to know if is there a full list of the fields that's parsable at all?
No,
of course not.
So yeah, and I can guarantee you that my list is not. I believe Greg probably he has a solution on this Argus, where he have collected data from a lot of more tenants that I have been collected. So and also Power BI Sentinel probably also have a list that is have more than. But I will say it's very edge cases that you will need some more fields in here. And as my extract from the workspace or the scanner API workspace info API with the whole catalog was failed on this demo, I will go to this kitchen and you can see here it was running successfully in this workspace that I set up earlier. So here I can go and also show you the experience with the SQL database that wouldn't show up in the other one. And as you can see here, SQL database, that's one. You can have multiple databases if you like, and under them you can have multiple schemas. I have just called raw, and then you can create views that is then pointing to the files, the JSON files, with some, and this is a list of all these one, and you will find them if you go here under raw. You will see that I have created some templates to get this JSON data more accessible to look at. But of course, you can also, if you don't want to use serverless SQL, if you don't have Synapse, then you can just consume the JSON files directly into Power BI. Power BI is also very good at consuming JSON files and expanding it into a structure that you can use. So that's definitely also an option. That is actually why I put this arrow down here, that you can go directly to Power BI and use Power Query and not having that. But for analysis and stuff, I like to use the serverless SQL. And I have the activity events. I just show you that. Then I have created different views for different artifact types. It's part of the same JSON file, but it's kind of more nice to see one that is only on datasets. So here I can say, show me the top 100 datasets in here. And then I will get the output as on a dataset. I will get the name and who it's configured by, some storage mode, and also who have access to this specific dataset in here. So here you can see user identified and what specific user access right. This specific.
Very useful information from a monitoring perspective for sure. And then of course, as you mentioned, for reporting, all of those can easily be thrown onto any chart and graph to be able to get user counts by their permission levels and all the other stuff.
All this.
Hopefully also just throw those things into goals and metrics as well to be able to do tracking purposes. Like if you ever notice that a new user pops up that that is getting build permissions, you can get a little flag to like have the admin just double check to make sure who's out there granting permissions to new people.
Yeah, exactly. Good use cases. So there are tons, not tons. There's a lot of different, and I just created the ones that I've been using the most. For instance, I haven't. If you see this list one more time, I have only focused on Power BI. So in here you don't see anything about the new Fabric Fabric artifact, but they are in there. So just for the demo, I will of course also upload those one. I've only done it for lakehouses until now, but just so you can see that I can also query Fabric data that is also part of this catalog data. And what you should be aware of, that these or this SQL statement is actually getting all the copies. So it for each time you extracted it, you will get a line in here. So you need to say, okay, it is a specific extract date I will be looking at, or I will be looking at the highest extract date, because then I also get if people have deleted one. Oh, I will also have that in my list. And if I only look at the last extract date, maybe I won't get a full list. So that's something you need to do yourself on top of those. But yeah, you will. So I think I have covered most of the stuff here, and then I'll say go and read and dive into the different blog posts. In here, I have I will love to, and at some point I will do that, is to actually combine these blog posts into this GitHub. So you will have, don't need to look at separate blog posts, because some of the things in the blog post, because they're written 2 years ago, some of them is not how it is today. I believe I have gone through some of them and uploaded some of the screenshots, because some of the things Microsoft have made some new namings of things, but there could be something that's not exactly how it is today. But,
well, it'll be good to see once these gets consolidated, but otherwise all those links are available in the description of this stream below, so feel free to go check those out down below the YouTube links. But I will also want to bring up one other question again from Greg. It's a good one. So, from Greg and Anthony, I have two others. So what do you consider to be some of the most important metrics and indicators to watch for? He's asking for a friend.
That's a great. If we say Power BI activity data, then the most common use case is, of course, just looking at what has been used by who, but also the other way around. So who is not using it, and then also combining it with the license information is is something that if you need to have some funding to set up the solution, to get some time to set up the solution, then you can say, oh, I can actually save our company money if we set this up, because I can find out who is not using the Power BI or Power BI Premium per user license.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And last one, let's pop this up, and then we'll use Anthony's to wrap up the stream. So you can see report page usage within the service usage report, but can you access that page usage info via the REST API?
See report page usage. Report page usage info. Yeah, that will be usage
page level, like usage. So
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
Page. Yeah. No, unfortunately not. No. Page level is not part of this one, or part of the activity log. You will you can, unfortunately, Microsoft is not exposing that information.
Not yet. And I know there's also been a big push on like pages, and even also like someday maybe clicks and telemetry on like what they're clicking on. I know I can certainly build a better report if I know what pages are being used, or if how often a slicer is getting used on a page, but that's something that is sadly yet available. But man, that the amount of information that could give us if that actually would be really, really fantastic.
Yeah, you have another way of collecting those data. That is something called the log analytics integration into Power BI. It also requires that you set up some Azure service, and you can set it up on a workspace level. You can set it up tenant-wise, but on a workspace. So if you have your most important data set in one workspace, then you can set up, okay, I want to monitor this. And if you set this log analytic, as it's called, it is very, very, very granular information you will get out. And some of the information you get out there is actually down on page and also on visual level in the specific ones. I have played around with one client and set up a solution where we can go down and then look at specific visualization, and you're not only getting who has seen this page and this visualization, but you also see the specific time it took to query, make this specific DAX query, so you can see, oh, that is the specific visualization that is making this report slow.
Yep, and I think I've not actually specifically developed with it myself, but with the log analytics, is it actually telling you that object A was clicked, or is it basically giving you all the queries that are being ran by the model? And that's how you can reverse engineer that. So like if you have a slicer on the page for year equals 2015, if you're scanning any of the queries and at any point a explicit filter for a calendar year is being applied, you know that slicer's been used. So you could track the queries to then reverse engineer, oh, this visual was clicked for cross filtering. This slicer was categorical filter was selected here, because you're actually looking at the queries being ran by the model and its compute time and all that. So that's how you can find out what visuals are being clicked based off the query. So a little bit of, I would assume, a bit of engineering has to go into going from the query to associated visual, but you can still interpret your results.
You will get a visual ID.
You add a visual ID, okay, for the container.
And that visual ID you can you can get through another tool where you can find out the visual IDs of a specific Power BI report file.
Yep.
And that could be Matthias Tierbach's tool, PBI tools that can give you that kind of information that you can then combine with this log analytics.
I'll mention just one other little call out to finish up. Poking around at it, trying to make a bookmark document with Didier. I found it interesting that if you actually if you create a visual on a page, it gives it a unique visual ID. If you copy paste that to another page, it still has the same visual ID. The only way to get a true visual ID is you have to create a composite key between the visual ID and the page ID to get the unique item inside of a model. That report.layout file is nightmarish to work with. It's really rough. So I will continue to mention as many times as I can. Like I hope to see a day when we get a TIMDL, a very readable language for the model. I would love to see that for the report. It would just make everything so much easier, from monitoring to all sorts of stuff. So I can only imagine that is just what Microsoft has to be thinking, because you have half the coin. You have the model, already now formatted for the code, that's got to be the next thing that's going to come out. So,
Absolutely.
Hopefully we get something like that in the near future as well. But otherwise, let me pop back to our screen here. Joost, I want to thank you for coming on today. This has been fantastic. I think it was a great deep dive into a lot of Azure products between Synapse and everything that can pull the data out, ingest it, pop it into readable exports. And of course, anytime I think API discussions come in, it's going to have to be technical, but I do think it's very useful for the individuals who need to do this monitoring, because there's only so much that Microsoft exposes in their own built-in UIs. They give you the rest of the keys to the kingdom, but you need to do a little bit of the footwork yourself. So I think this would be a very useful video for people to watch to access resources, even from what you've written. I know Greg has a tool as well. Power BI Sentinel is another one. And there's multiple resources out there for people to familiarize themselves with this environment and hopefully get some better monitoring and tracking for their tenant. And tie all this hopefully maybe into some metrics or goals at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Thank you for letting me present this solution for the first time in a stream. It was a good experience, and it took a little longer than I expected. But as you said, it was a deep dive. So and we also used some time to go deep and also tell some of the things behind the scenes.
Exactly. Well, then I wish you a good Friday night and good have a great weekend. And otherwise, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure at some point in the near future, I'll have you back on again for some other fun and exciting topics.
I would love to. And yeah,
Beautiful.
have a good day.
Yeah. Cheers, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you so much for watching. Please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you want to help support this channel, take a look at our channel memberships or our merchandise store for cool swag. And last but not least, please consider sharing this video on your social media platform of choice to help our channel grow. So, until next time.